join of our pocket. So here I have my little, this would be the side skirt, and this is our side seam where we've marked our notch where we're going to be putting our pocket. And our lovely pocket piece. We're going to match the top of our pocket with the notch on the side seam of our skirt, putting the right sides together. So now it's pinned. The edges didn't exactly line up, which might happen if you're using a pocket piece from another pattern, because the curvature of the side of the skirt might not be exactly the same, but that's well within our seam allowance, so it's not going to matter. Alright, and then we're going to sew through our seam allowance. Now both patterns came with the same seam allowance of 5/8 of an inch. So we don't have to do any adjusting there. If there's a different seam allowance, make sure you adjust your pocket piece so that it has the right amount of seam allowance. And we're just going to sew, back stitching at the beginning for a nice strong join. So now we have our pocket piece joined to our skirt. What we're going to do next is finish this part of the seam where the pocket is joined to the skirt. So when we join the two skirt pieces together, we're going to sew through the seam, and it's going to be more difficult to finish it afterwards. So I'm just going to take my pinking shears and pink along the seam, being careful at the edges not to take too much off, so that I can still match up the seam of the skirt, the other skirt piece. Alright. So there's our little finished seam. You don't have to pink if you don't like pinking. Whatever seam finishing you want to do, serging or a zigzag stitch would also be a really good one. So then I'm going to grab my other little skirt piece, which I've already sewn, and finish the seam. And we're going to pin these two together, matching up our side seam and the pockets. So now I've got my two pieces pinned together. We're just going to sew through the seam allowance. When we get to the pocket, we're going to go down 5/8 of an inch, which is our seam allowance, and then pivot so around the edge of the pocket, get to the next here, pivot at 5/8 of an inch, and come back down. So imagine that this is all one piece and we're just sewing around our little pocket. So here we're at about 5/8 of an inch. Going to pivot, and I'm not quite at 5/8 of an inch. There, get back in our seam allowance, and make our way around the pocket. On this side, the 5/8 of an inch is a lot easier to find because it's just the seam that we've already sewed when we attached our pocket. And we can pivot. And finish the rest of the seam. Alright, and that is most of our pocket is done. All you have to do is go through, trim all your threads, and finish your seam edge. Again, pinking is a nice way to do it if your fabric will hold up with pinking if it doesn't ravel too much. You can do serging, overlocking, a zigzag. I've even been known to do faux French seams, although it can be kind of difficult around the pocket because it's so curved. But then when we open up, we would have the side seam of our skirt, and now we have a pocket. There we go.